I felt like I had to write a song, let's try to have capitalism with a conscience, you know what I mean?
Bob Seger didn't sell dreams. He sold truth, the kind scraped off steel and asphalt. He championed a simple mission. If the music didn't speak to people who punch a clock, what was the point?
I like to dream my troubles all away on our bed.
But here's the twist most fans never heard. Behind that calm, everyman exterior lived a watchdog with zero patience for anything he thought was fake.
He's probably not lying. We were all arguing about what our band name should be, and I was kind of letting the band...
When radio turned into a fashion show, when labels tried to sand down the grit, when artists pretended to be working class from 1,000 miles away, he noticed, and he didn't forget. Tonight, we're lifting the hood on the rivalries that shaped his decisions in the studio and on stage. Not tabloid drama, values wars. The result was a career that refused to bow to trends, even when trends ran the charts. You think you know Bob Seger as the laid-back, turn-the-page poet? Good. Now meet the part of him that guarded the front door of American rock like a junkyard dog with a memory. The countdown starts at 6, and it doesn't blink. Number 6. Disco artists. Disco didn't just take over clubs, it steamrolled the gatekeepers. Suddenly, the stations that once fed bar band rock were programming satin strings, 4-on-the-floor thump, and mirror ball fantasy. To Bob Seger, that wasn't a harmless fad. It was a system that prized studio perfume over sweat. He watched live acts get pushed to the margins while assembly line grooves owned drive time, and he bristled. His answer was stubborn and musical. Warmer drums, breathing guitars, count-offs you can see, and vocals that keep the air in. If disco chased gloss, he chased grain. The touch of fingers on strings, pick noise, room spill. He drew a bright line. Real musicians in a room versus parts stitched together by committee. The point wasn't to sneer at dancers. It was to defend the bandstand. You could hear the philosophy in the arrangements. Fewer lacquered surfaces, more wood and wire. Rhythm sections that push and pull like lungs. Choruses that arrive because the room wants them, not because a grid commands them. Awards piled up around glittering singles, and he kept working the Heartland circuit, reminding people what a snare sounds like when it bleeds into the air, not a click. In the studio, he chose takes with fingerprints, rushes and drags that make choruses breathe. Engineers tell stories of him rejecting the perfect pass because the imperfect one felt like headlights. While mirror balls turned radio into a fashion show, he treated records like road diaries. Less cologne, more tire noise, more weather. Did he hate disco? He hated what it did to priorities, how image and tempo could outrank feeling. So resistance wasn't a speech, it was a sound. Trends win summers. Trust wins decades. When the glitter settled, his catalog kept idling in driveways, windows cracked, chorus up. Real music doesn't chase the light, it throws its own. Number 5. Punk rock bands. Punk exploded like a spark in a dry room. Fast, jagged, proudly unvarnished. And for a lot of shutout kids, that felt like freedom. For Bob Seger, it landed like a challenge to everything he valued about making records that last. He heard an argument buried under the feedback. That precision was fake, melody was compromise, and hope was corny. He rejected that whole frame. Rock, in his book, wasn't demolition for its own sake. It was a working language, how people argued with bad luck and still showed up for the morning shift. You could rage without throwing craftsmanship in the dumpster. So he answered the spit and snarl with the one thing punk supposedly didn't need. Feel earned the hard way. Rehearsals got tighter. Pockets got deeper. Choruses hit like a welded seam. If punk shouted, "Anyone can do it," his reply was, "Then do it well." He wasn't blind to punk's spark. He just had no patience for the pose of breaking things because breaking things looks brave. On stage, the debate turned into proof. He drove songs with clarity, not wreckage, letting the band breathe in human time. Tiny rushes, tiny drags, the oxygen that two hands on real instruments create. Critics painted arena rock as bloated while crowning punk. The new gold standard of authentic Seger took the hit, doubled down on songcraft, and let the years sort it out. Headlines fade, stories stick. The records built on muscle memory and lived-in melody kept earning nods from people who don't care about manifestos, only about whether a verse feels like their life. That was the quiet verdict he chased. Not louder rebellion, but longer resonance. Punk came like weather. His code stayed like climate. Number 4. The Eagles. Early Eagles felt like dust and denim. Tight harmonies. Telecasters with bite. Stories that smelled like sun-baked highway. As the years rolled on, the edges rounded off. The mixes gleamed. The choruses arrived with airbrushed perfection. And the whole thing slid across radio like polished oak. Seger respected the chops. He balked at the lacquer. His instinct has always been to leave the fingerprints on the glass, to let the snare rattle, to keep the breath in the vocal, to let the room leak into the mic. Watching the Eagles ascend on ever smoother records looked to him like a campfire turning into a boardroom presentation. Both camps courted the same grown-up crowd. People with miles on the odometer who needed big melodies that still felt human. But Los Angeles knew how to package reliability. Choruses engineered to sit neatly between commercials. Bridges tuned to the second. Seger's Rust Belt barometer read that polish as a quiet surrender. He wanted danger in the groove, a little wobble in the timing, that feeling that anything could lift off in the third verse. The Eagles dominated charts with immaculate architecture. Seger doubled down on sweat and swing, tracking like it was midnight in a warehouse rather than noon in a control room. Did he hate them? Not in the headline sense. Call it professional recoil. A gut-level flinch from music that, in his view, swapped grit for gloss and risk for reliability. Their victory lap only hardened his code. No velvet ropes between the band and the truth. No surrender of pulse to perfection. Where one path chased permanence through shine, he chased it through feel. In the long run, that fork in the road defined his lane. He didn't compete with their sheen. He protected the grit and built a legacy on exactly that refusal. Number 3. Bruce Springsteen. Two poets of factories and two-lane blacktops. Two bands that could turn a Tuesday into an altar. On paper, they were brothers. In practice, comparison is acid. Critics framed Bruce as the literary laureate and Seger as the plain-spoken preacher, as if nuance earned prestige and sincerity earned only a pat on the head. That sting lingered. Seger's worldview came from Michigan mileage, shift whistles, busted knuckles, the hush inside a diner after midnight. He didn't rap it in riddles. He said it like a tired man would. When Springsteen's anthems blew past platinum and grad school theses bloomed around the lyrics, Seger felt the scale tilt toward complexity over contact. He studied the arrangements, not to copy, but to measure what radio was rewarding. The answer wasn't pretty. Depth packaged as spectacle could outrun depth delivered as handshake. On stage, that rivalry made him dangerous in the best way. Sets that felt like affidavits. He didn't argue from a lectern. He argued from a stool, guitar across his leg. Stories short and true. The E Street myth swelled into an institution. The silver bullet promise stayed closer to the streetlight. Seger pushed his band to hit pocket and pocket again until the groove felt welded. Proof that clarity can roar without pyrotechnics. Interviews found him sidestepping the comparison with a grin, then heading back to work, determined to prove that the shortest line between a verse and a heartbeat doesn't need footnotes. Did he envy Bruce's coronation? Maybe. Did he surrender his lane? Not for a second. If Springsteen became America's crowned narrator, Seger stayed its conscience at 2 a.m., the voice in the cab of a long drive, telling you the truth without makeup. And that resolve set the stage for the next fight, when screens tried to replace songs. Number 2. MTV era pop stars. When MTV took over, the new gatekeeper wasn't a DJ with taste. It was a camera with demands. Overnight, rotation depended less on chord changes than costume changes, and acts that photographed well-leapfrogged bands that lived on feel. For Bob Seger, that was the industry switching from sound to spectacle mid-song. He didn't despise pop itself. He bristled at the decree that a chorus only counted if it came packaged with fog cannons, choreography, and a 5-figure storyboard. The memo said, "Build a world." He heard, "Build a disguise." His answer was stubborn on purpose. Keep the videos simple. Keep the budgets sane. Keep the studio about microphones, not makeup. If a track couldn't raise goosebumps on a bad car stereo, no crane shot would save it. Directors pitched epics with deserts, helicopters, and coded mythology. He declined politely, then cut another take with the band in a room until the groove breathed like a living thing. While neon synth outfits colonized early primetime, he trusted guitars that bend, drums that leak, and vocals where you can hear the air move between words. It wasn't technophobia. It was faith that the spine of a song is rhythm and truth, not wardrobe. Programmers followed the pictures, and some doors closed. Seger shrugged the kind of shrug you earn. Play the rooms, meet the people, let the music travel one night at a time. Years later, many blockbuster clips feel sealed in their decade. Pure museum glass. The records built on melody, muscle, and unvarnished stories still roll down highways at 2 a.m. That was the quiet victory. By refusing to worship the lens, he made the songs hard to date. Trends aged like hairstyles. His catalog aged like leather. And the crowd never needed a costume change to sing along. Number 1. Record label executives. Here's the not-so-secret villain. Spreadsheets. When marketing decks started telling artists who they were, Seger dug in. He'd watched notes morph into orders, shorter intros for radio, brighter drums for format, guest features with whatever face tested well that quarter. He pushed back not out of ego, but because songs answer to lived experience, not a calendar. He wrote from life. If a meeting suggested sanding off inconvenient truths to win multi-demo appeal, he headed the other way. The goal wasn't to be difficult, it was to be true. He wanted records that felt like someone talking to you after midnight, not a brand speaking in bullet points. In studios, he chose takes with breath and blemish if the feel was holy. Daring anyone to prove a cleaner pass could beat it in a car at 2 a.m. Engineers remember him asking for less polish, more pulse. Let the snare breathe. Let the guitar ring. Keep the human in the corners. In offices, he argued for album flow over single first thinking. For touring towns, radio forgot. For artwork that matched the grit inside the grooves. He'd rather miss a trend than betray the code. Executives measured quarters. He measured nights when a lyric lands and a crowd answers back. When budgets steered toward spectacle, he spent on time with the band. When forecasts demanded cosmetic remixes, he stuck with mixes that felt like a handshake, not a mirror. On stage, he thanked the audience, the only bosses he recognized, and made it clear this wasn't a product demonstration. It was a promise. Did that stance cost him certain windows? Probably, but it bought something no marketing plan can manufacture. Trust. Long after campaigns expire, those songs still work shift hours and ride shotgun on lonely highways. The suits optimized impressions. He optimized impact. That's the legacy hiding in plain sight. Not just hits, but a code. Rock built for people who work, love, screw up, try again. Music that respects the listener enough to bring the truth without makeup. You don't need to get Bob Seger to feel him. You just need a mile of road and a memory that still stings a little. The rivals came and went. The code stayed. And that might be the most explosive reveal of all. Not who he hated, but what he protected. The rest is volume. If you strip away the drama, you're left with choices. Say no to the fad, yes to the band. Say no to the focus group, yes to the verse. When disco made the floor glitter, he made the amps glow. When punk tried to bulldoze craftsmanship, he welded it stronger. When LA polish turned rugged into room scent, he kept the windows open. When the boss got the crown, he kept the town. When MTV made videos the new currency, he paid in songs. And when the label ledger called music a product line, he reminded them products don't sing to you at the gas pump at 1 a.m.